Click here to subscribe our channel. Do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of free videos.
So we can start with oligopoly. First of all, we will explain features of oligopoly market, because that will help to understand this market, although there will be no question directly from the feature. But remember, when we say oligopoly, the most important feature of oligopoly will be that it is characterized by few sellers. When it is characterized by few sellers, more than one but not large in number. Quantify नहीं करना few का मतलब क्या है, एक से ज़्यादा है but they are not large in number. But if there are few sellers in the market, then there will be greater interdependency. So interdependency becomes the second important feature. Interdependency in terms of what? Interdependency in terms of price, interdependency in terms of output decision, interdependency in terms of advertisement decision. So that means if one firm take a decision, its impact will be on the other firm, and then the other firm will react, its impact will be again on the first firm. You can say example of Pepsi and Coke. तो better example हो जाएगा वो oligopoly market के लिए. So when Coke will reduce the price, its impact will be felt by Pepsi. When Pepsi will react, its impact will be felt by Coke. So there is greater interdependency. Such interdependency was missing in perfect competition. Why such interdependency was missing in perfect competition? Under perfect competition there was large number of sellers. तो अगर एक seller, first of all, one seller do not have the control over price. So even if the one seller will change the price, its impact will be realized by many firms and the impact will get diffused. तो वहाँ पे कोई interdependency नहीं है. But there is significant interdependency in the market of oligopoly. Because of interdependency, there is greater uncertainty. Uncertainty about, suppose Coke ने price को कम किया, what is uncertainty? And what is fear for Coke? Pepsi may not follow. तो Coke ने price कम किया और Pepsi follow ना करे तो Coke reduces the price and Pepsi will not follow. तो Coke का market share increase हो जाएगा, तो you expect that Pepsi will follow, और फॉलो करके वो ज़्यादा रिड्यूस कर दे प्राइस, तो then market share of Coke will decline, but that will result into price war, and they are intelligent enough to recognize that in a price war consumer will be the beneficiary, not the firms. So they understand their interdependency, so they do not compete on the basis of price. They are competing on the basis of non-price, like advertisement. ये non-price competition है, वो price पे competition नहीं है. So in the oligopoly market, but there is certain degree of uncertainty in this market. To avoid that uncertainty, sometimes firms tend to collude. Uncertainty will be disliked by the firm, because firm को पता होना चाहिए कि अगर वो price कम करता है तो उसका impact क्या होगा. अगर वो uncertain है, sure नहीं है कि क्या impact होगा, जो भी डिसीजन वो ले रहा है उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा उसके बारे में श्योर नहीं है. उस अनसर्टेनिटी को अवॉइड करने के लिए फर्म्स टेंड टू कॉल्यूड. सो ओलिगोपोली इज बेसिकली ऑफ टू टाइप्स. इट कुड बी कॉल्यूसिव ओलिगोपोली. सो इन अ कॉल्यूसिव ओलिगोपोली फर्म्स आर कॉल्यूडिंग. कॉल्यूजन मीन्स सम सॉर्ट ऑफ एग्रीमेंट इज देयर. दैट एग्रीमेंट मे बी अ फॉर्मल एग्रीमेंट और इट कुड बी जस्ट अ टैसिट अंडरस्टैंडिंग. लाइक price leadership is a form of collusive oligopoly. One firm set the price, others follow. They are not competing on the basis of price. Leader ने price बढ़ा दिया, बाकी सब भी अपने price को क्या कर लेंगे, increase कर लेंगे. They are not competing on the basis of price. Or other example is of a cartel. So when firms form a cartel, that means they make a central agency, and that central agency will take decision. That central agency will determine how much will be the price and how much output to be sold. So oligopoly is basically divided into two parts here. One is a collusive oligopoly, other is non-collusive oligopoly. In collusive oligopoly, firms are not competing. In a non-collusive, they are competing with each other. So we are dividing this oligopoly basically into two parts, non-collusive and collusive. और ये दो अलग अलग चैप्टर हैं कुछ साइंस में, नॉन कॉल्यूसिव ओलिगोपोली, अनकॉल्यूसिव ओलिगोपोली. So first we will explain the feature, then in this second part we will be starting with the specific models like coordinate model first. Keywords सिर्फ यहाँ लिखेंगे अभी. In this coordinate model we consider that both firms, that means we will be basically taking the example of duopoly, that means दो firm है, more than one but not large in number I said. So duopoly is a part of oligopoly. Both firms determine their output or quantity together. Both firms determine their quantity together. So it is basically a quantity competition. And when I say both firms determine their quantity together, it means when one firm decides its own output, it considers that the output produced by other firm will remain same. मतलब वो उसका conjectural variation है, उसने अपना एक assumption बना रखा है कि when one firm will decide the output, it assumes that the output produced by other firm will remain. When other firm take the decision, the same assumption has been made by the other firm. वो भी क्या assume कर रहा है, that the output produced by the first firm will remain same. That is the assumption. Based on different assumption, we will have different models in oligopoly, and each model is highlighting one important part. So in the coordinate model, both firms will determine their output together, but when we will explain Burton model, that is based upon another conjectural variation, where both firms determine their price together. So one firm thinks that when one firm decides the price, it assumes that the price set by the other firm will remain same. That means it is now based upon another assumption. So this is basically price competition, and this is quantity competition. The fourth is a Stakelberg model. In that Stakelberg model, we talk about first mover, which means one firm set the quantity first. After observing that quantity, second firm decides. First में क्या हो रहा था, both determine together. Stakelberg में one firm will set the quantity first, then second firm will decide. That means one firm will act as the leader and other firm will act as the follower. Or coordinate में no one is leader, both are determining together. So in the coordinate model, both firms determine their output together. In Stakelberg, one firm will set first, then second firm will take decision, and leader could be the first firm or the second firm. But these all three firms are part of कोई collusion नहीं है यहाँ पे, they are competing with each other. So all are example of non-collusive oligopoly. ये तीनों non-collusive oligopoly के example है. And one more will be explained here is a Chamberlain model. Chamberlain model of a large group. Sorry, ये collusive oligopoly है, for it will be for a small group. Chamberlain model दोनों ही मार्केट में पढ़े जाते हैं, मोनोपोलिस्टिक में भी है और ओलिगोपोली में भी है. इन ओलिगोपोली इट विल बी फॉर स्मॉल ग्रुप. यहाँ तक आप कहेंगे दिस इज बेसिकली इंक्लूडेड इन वन चैप्टर, और ये कई क्वेश्चन पूछे गए. ऑल मॉडल्स आर बेस्ड अपॉन डिफरेंट assumptions. ये जितने भी मॉडल हैं all are based upon different assumptions, and those assumptions are basically known as conjectural variation. अब ये टर्म एक्चुअल में हर बुक के अंदर यूज़ नहीं हुआ है, conjectural variation word, but this was the question in 2020. What is conjectural variation? Show how some models of oligopoly are derived on the basis of it. So you have to define what is the meaning of conjectural variation first, and then you have to relate that definition with respect to different models. So based upon one conjectural variation we get Cornet model. Based upon second conjectural variation we get Burton model. Based on third conjectural variation we get Stekelberg model. So what is the conjectural variation in Cornet model? Conjectural variation in Cornet model is that when one firm decides its own output, it considers that or assumes that the output produced by other firm will remain same. वो उसका assumption है, वो उसका conjectural variation है. In the Burton model, what is the conjectural variation? When one firm decides price, it assumes that the price set by the other firm will remain same. Whether it is correct or incorrect उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे, होता या नहीं होता वो भी नहीं एक्सप्लेन हो रहा. You have to discuss it in as it is, जैसे मॉडल एक्सप्लेन किए गए. सो कंजेक्चुअल वेरिएशन ये टर्म ऐड हुआ और उसके बाद किसी इट इज़ नॉट रेफरिंग टू एनी स्पेसिफिक मॉडल. Show some models of oligopoly. So briefly you have to explain Cornet, briefly you have to explain Stekelberg, briefly you have to explain Burton, and you can add let us say then Chamberlain as well. So there are different models based upon different conjectural variation. So we will be explaining that part. अब देखो ये क्वेश्चन एक फॉर्म में है. सेकेंड क्वेश्चन इफ यू रीड, suppose that we have two firms in the market with constant marginal cost C1 and C2 respectively, where C1 is greater than C2. What is Burton decline in this market? तो एक तो conjectural variation पे क्वेश्चन आ गया. Second question was on Burton model. And if you read the third question, two firms produce homogeneous output with constant cost with cost function and inverse market demand function. This show that at the Cornet-Nash equilibrium. So this third question is basically on Cornet model, but this was basically a numerical question. We'll solve that this numerical as well. ये तीनों ही क्वेश्चन ओलिगोपोली के थे मार्केट सेक्टर से. One Burton, other, but all three were basically part of non-collusive oligopoly. Collusive oligopoly से कोई क्वेश्चन मतलब प्राइस लीडरशिप, कार्टेल एटसेट्रा, गेम थ्योरी वगैरह के कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं रहे. सो यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट ठीक है नेक्स्ट ईयर वाले क्वेश्चन में वो बेटर रिप्रेजेंटेशन अगर क्वेश्चन का होगा तो कॉलेसिव ओलिगोपोली के क्वेश्चन जो अभी जनवरी में मेंस होंगे उसके अंदर दिख जाने चाहिए. ठीक है, वो सेम पैटर्न रहता है या थोड़ा डिफरेंट होकर के आता है, या न्यूमेरिकल 20 में पूछा गया बट 21 में फॉलो करते हैं न्यूमेरिकल को या फिर से डिसकंटिन्यू कर जाते हैं. ये कोऑर्डिनेट मॉडल अभी तक लास्ट 20-25 ईयर के क्वेश्चन में 3 साल दिखेंगे. 2009 का क्वेश्चन है, एक 2013 में क्वेश्चन था और 2020 में क्वेश्चन. ठीक है ना, ऑल थ्री आर बेसिकली ऑन कोऑर्डिनेट मॉडल. तो एक पर्टिकुलर न्यूमेरिकल सिर्फ करना है ओलिगोपोली के लिए कोऑर्डिनेट मॉडल, दैट विल सॉल्व योर न्यूमेरिकल प्रॉब्लम. बट विल बी सॉल्विंग इट फॉर कोऑर्डिनेट मॉडल ऑल्सो, वी विल सॉल्व इट फॉर बर्टन ऑल्सो एंड फॉर स्टेकलबर्ग. एग्जाम्पल के फॉर्म में तीनों ही कर लेंगे. इनकेस अगर स्टेकलबर्ग का आएगा देन so you must be knowing how to solve for Stekelberg model as well. So first of all just complete this list. So this is for 6th topic that we will be discussing here in oligopoly will be the collusion, and collusion could be in terms of price leadership. Price leadership, within price leadership there will be 3 parts. Within price leadership there will be 3 parts. Now who will be the leader? Which firm will be the leader? One concept says leader will be that firm who is dominant, जिसका market share ज़्यादा हो. So that is one firm which is a dominant firm price leadership. Other concept says leader will be the firm whose cost of production is lower. जिस firm का cost lower होगा that firm will act as leader. So it is a low cost firm price leadership. Low cost firm price leadership. And a third concept is of barometric, which means leader will be that firm who has a better understanding of the market, not necessarily वो dominant हो या उसका कॉस्ट कम हो, बट यूजुअली उस फर्म का जो फोरकास्ट होते हैं वो ज़्यादा एक्यूरेट होते हैं. सो दैट फर्म मे एक्ट एज द लीडर. सो हियर लीडर विल सेट द प्राइस एंड अदर्स विल follow. But who will be the leader? There are three different point of view: dominant firm leader, low cost firm leader, and barometric. The other form of collusion will be cartel. Like international cartel के example आप relate कर सकते हो. OPEC, oil producing and exporting countries. So they decide what will be the price. और जो members होंगे, member countries होंगे, they simply accept the price which is set by the OPEC. So cartel is another form of collusion. Price leadership is first, second form of collusion is cartel. So these two will be discussed as part of collusive oligopoly. Then eighth topic, one important feature of oligopoly market is rigidity of price. So price rigidity, why prices tends to be rigid in this market? Price rigidity will be explained by Kinked Demand curve, and that concept was given by Paul Sweezy. Price rigidity concept that will be explained by Kinked Demand curve. So Kinked Demand curve hypothesis you can say, or Paul Sweezy model. In the entire market structure, whether we study perfect competition or monopoly, we assume that the objective of firm is to maximize profit, but sometimes the objective of firm could be to maximize sales. They are not interested in maximizing their profit, they are interested in maximizing their sales. So that concept was given by Baumol. Baumol's sales maximization model. Baumol's sales maximization model. Another topic in oligopoly is Bain's limit price. Bain's limit price theory. That means entire market में हमने ये पढ़ा क्या, firm is always charging that much price where their profit is maximized, but sometimes they charge a price lower than that. And what is the reason for that? वो अपना profit maximize नहीं कर रहे हैं, but they are charging a price lower than that because they are interested in preventing the entry of new firms in the market. So this is entry preventing pricing. You are not interested in maximizing your own profit, you are more concerned about preventing the entry of new firms in the market. So what will limit the entry of new firm? So limit price is basically considered as the highest price that they can charge without attracting entry. If they charge more than limit price, it will attract new firms in the market. So that limit price question was, I think, state question था ये 2016 का question, direct था state Bain's limit price theory. But if you don't know that what is the concept given by Bain, तो ये कंपल्सरी क्वेश्चन में थे. तो ऐसे क्वेश्चन में अगर आपको आइडिया ही नहीं है कि लिमिट प्राइस होता क्या है, कंसेप्ट क्या था लिमिट प्राइस का, तो यू शुड बी नोइंग एट इज दैट पार्ट. तो एक कंप्लीट चैप्टर है कोर्ट साइंस के अंदर लिमिट प्राइस पे, बेन्स लिमिट प्राइस पे. एंड इन 2016 देयर वर क्वेश्चन ऑन प्रिजनर्स डायलेमा एंड नैश इक्विलिब्रियम. उससे पहले तक गेम थ्योरी ओलिगोपोली में नहीं पढ़ते थे क्योंकि कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं होते थे. अब 2016 से गेम थ्योरी के भी क्वेश्चन है, सो यू शुड बी स्टडिंग गेम थ्योरी ऑल्सो एज पार्ट ऑफ ओलिगोपोली. So 11th topic will be game theory. Within that game theory, we will study prisoner's dilemma and Nash equilibrium. Okay, so this is content for oligopoly topic. So this will take some time to complete. So around we can say 3 to 4 lectures will be considered by oligopoly topic itself. 2 chapters from Kotsanis, one collusive oligopoly, another is non-collusive. I think chapter number 8 or 9 हो गया, या 9 10. Before starting any model, just ये जो लास्ट ईयर का क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय कंजेक्चरल वेरिएशन, सिर्फ ये फर्स्ट पार्ट के लिए एक पैराग्राफ लिख लीजिए. व्हाट इज कंजेक्चरल वेरिएशन, बिकॉज ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम इन डिफरेंट मॉडल वी विल बी रेफरिंग टू दिस टर्म. व्हाट इज कंजेक्चरल वेरिएशन? सो आई विल बी जस्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग दिस पार्ट. जब मॉडल आप पढ़ लेंगे तो फिर आप रिलेट कर लोगे कि इस मॉडल में यह कंजेक्चरल वेरिएशन है, इस मॉडल का ये कंजेक्चरल वेरिएशन. दीज आर बेसिकली डिफरेंट assumptions. So write down. In oligopoly theory, conjectural variation is the belief that one firm has an idea about conjectural variation is the belief that one firm has an idea about the way its competitor may react if it varies its output or price. Underline that. I repeat. In oligopoly theory, conjectural variation is the belief that one firm has an idea about the way its competitor may react if it varies its output or price. So it is basically your belief about your competitor reaction. So what you are expecting from your competitor? You may expect that the competitor may not react. You may expect that the competitor will react. You may expect that the competitor will directly follow your price reduction. You may expect that competitor will not follow your price increase. So these are different conjectural variations. Asymmetric information means different thing. Asymmetric actually means that the two sides of the market do not have same information. That is asymmetricity. If the buyer and seller do not share the same information about the product, seller has more information and buyer has less information, then the information is asymmetric. So that is basically that is a different thing. Like a second hand car, used car, seller को exactly पता होता है कि कार का कंडीशन क्या है, बट उस कार का कंडीशन बायर को बाई करने से पहले मालूम नहीं चलता. सो दैट इज asymmetric information. हाँ वो मैं बता रहा हूँ, अभी सेकंड पार्ट को बाद में रिलेट कीजिएगा, अभी तो फिर सिर्फ फर्स्ट पार्ट टर्म का मतलब समझना है. देन वी विल एक्सप्लेन द मॉडल कॉर्नर बर्टन, देन विल बी रेफरिंग टू दैट व्हाट इज कंजेक्चुरल वेरिएशन इन दिस मॉडल. सो हियर ऑब्वियसली यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन ऑल, जहाँ जहाँ वो कंजेक्चुरल वेरिएशन है, बट यू आर नॉट एक्सपेक्टेड टू एक्सप्लेन द एंटायर मॉडल. You have to just highlight what is the conjectural variation in that model, the main assumption of that model. Right, on the firm forms a conjecture, the firm forms a conjecture about the variation, about the variation, about the variation in the other firm's output, about the variation in the other firm's output, that will accompany, that will accompany any change in its own output, that will accompany any change in its own output. For example, in the Cornet model, for example, in the Cornet model of oligopoly, in the Cornet model of oligopoly, it is assumed that, it is assumed that each firm treats the output, each firm treats or considers, each firm treats the output of other firm as given, each firm treats the output of other firm as given when it chooses its own output, when it chooses its own output. So when one firm decides the output, it assumes that the conjecture is that you assume that the other firm will continue to produce same output. So whatever be that output, you can assume that the other firm will not change. So you assume that the other firm will continue to produce same output. So my decision will not impact the other firm's decision. That is your conjecture. वो वैसा करेगा नहीं, that is different issue. But that is your belief. So conjecture variation is basically that belief. So Cornet model, the belief is that the all firm will, when they decide their own output, they consider that the output produced by a competitor will not. And what is conjecture variation in Burton? When one firm decide their own price, they believe that the price set by other firm will not change. So there are different type of conjecture different. और ये concept Nash equilibrium के अंदर भी आएगा. ठीक है, तो just add one more point. This is sometimes called Nash conjecture, NaSH, Nash conjecture, as it underlines the standard Nash equilibrium concept, as it underlines the standard Nash equilibrium concept. Nash equilibrium concept, Nash, NaSH, Nash equilibrium concept. The other example of conjectural variation is a Burton model, where it is assumed that each firm treats the price of other firm as given. Each firm treats the price of other firm as given. Treats the price of other firm as given when it chooses its own price. When it chooses its own price. when it chooses its own price. Okay, so there are different conjectures. When we explain this Stakel bar, we'll find a different conjecture that the leader will set the price and then follower will react. But how they will react, leader has certain belief about the follower. तो वो सिर्फ फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ के लिए, फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन के लिए. सेकंड पार्ट व्हेन डिफरेंट मॉडल्स आप पढ़ लेंगे देन यू कैन रिलेट मोर. ठीक है, देन यू कैन मेक द कंप्लीट आंसर. बट व्हाट यू हैव रिटन इज ओनली फॉर दिस फर्स्ट पार्ट. Now we can start with this coordinate model or coordinate non-collusive. These are examples. Collusive or one of topic के लिए we can do with price rigidity also. ठीक है, वो आज की क्लास में ही ओवर हो जाएगा. So that we can start our class with coordinate model tomorrow. So पहले price rigidity कर लेते हैं. Price rigidity से पहले भी just make a heading in this features. ठीक है, now we are starting with oligopoly. First, few cells. Written. Oligopoly market is characterized by oligopoly market is characterized by oligopoly market is characterized by presence of few big sellers in market. Presence of few big sellers in market. After comma, unlike monopolistic competition, unlike monopolistic competition, unlike monopolistic competition, where firms are large in number, where firms are large in number but small in size. Firms are large in number but small in size. Firms are large in number but small in size. So monopolistic market में there are many firms, but if there are many firms in the market, the size of each firm will be small. But if there are few firms, they will be big in size. So oligopoly market is characterized by presence of few big sellers in the market. Because of few big sellers in the market, the second feature is interdependency. Interdependency. This is an important feature of oligopoly. This is an important feature of oligopoly. This is an important feature of oligopoly. Which imply that there is interdependency or there is significant interdependency. There is significant interdependency. There is significant interdependency among firms regarding their output and price decision. Regarding their output and price decision. Third, price rigidity. This is another feature of oligopoly. Rigidity does not mean that price will not change. Rigidity means that they are sticky. That means they will not change easily. They will not change daily. डे टू डे में अगर वेजिटेबल का प्राइस चेंज हो रहा है बट डे टू डे में कोक और पेप्सी का प्राइस चेंज नहीं हो रहा, बट वाई दे आर नॉट चेंजिंग द प्राइस? उनके लिए भी कॉस्ट चेंज होता है बट दे आर नॉट रिफ्लेक्टेड इन चेंज इन प्राइस, एंड द रीज़न फॉर दिस no change in price or less frequent change in price is that there is a dilemma always. And what is the dilemma? Dilemma is that if Coke decides to reduce the price, what is the fear? Pepsi will follow and it will result into price war. So because of that, Coke decides not to reduce the price. If Coke decides to increase the price, then what is the fear? Pepsi may not increase the price. तो फिर मार्केट शेयर कोक का कम हो जाएगा. So neither they are reducing nor they are increasing. In that dilemma, the price tends to be rigid. So that price rigidity is a feature of oligopoly, and that will be explained by the Paul-Sigi model. ठीक है, इस मॉडल से आप उसको एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. थर्ड पॉइंट पहले, प्राइस rigidity is an important feature of oligopoly. It arises because of dilemma faced by firms in changing their price. ठीक है, तो प्राइसेस यहाँ चेंज नहीं हो रहे हैं, तो हाउ दे आर कॉम्पिटिंग? एक्चुअली they are competing based upon non price. So in oligopoly market we generally find non price competition more. Non price competition means you will find greater importance of advertisement, more advertisement. That means they are competing not by reducing the price, they are competing on the basis of advertising their product. So just remember these, and just remember this second one, interdependency. This interdependency will create uncertainty, and to avoid that uncertainty, firms will collude. So they are colluding in order to avoid interdependency. So now we are going to basically explain this part first, price rigidity model. Price rigidity model or Kinked Demand curve hypothesis, a concept given by Paul-Sigi. ठीक है, इस क्वेश्चन की फ्रीक्वेंसी काफ़ी है. Paul-Sigi क्वेश्चन ये 2016 में, in 2001, 1999. Question usually direct question है, like in 2016 the question was explain Kinked Demand curve theory with the help of diagram. अब रिमेंबर, इस फॉर्म का अगर क्वेश्चन मिल जाता है वहाँ पे, तो ये डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन, इसका एक वेल प्रिपेयर्ड आपके पास आंसर है, वो आपने प्रैक्टिस कर रखा है, एज इट इज उसको लिख देना बस. ठीक है, इसमें कोई एप्लीकेशन नहीं है, नथिंग, कुछ चेंज नहीं होना. जस्ट एक्सप्लेन दैट मॉडल. एंड इन 2001 the question was explain oligopoly. So when you are explaining oligopoly, just explain the features. And does Sigi Kinked Demand curve solution offer a satisfactory explanation of price output decision in the oligopoly? So this question is also from, and जस्ट 2005 के अंदर भी क्वेश्चन है. व्हाट इज मीन बाय ओलिगोपोली, इन व्हाट रेस्पेक्ट इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द अदर फॉर्म ऑफ मार्केट, शो दैट एन ओलिगोपोलिस्ट मे फेस अ किंग डिमांड कर्व. क्लियर. सो किंग डिमांड कर्व का जो कंसेप्ट है, इसको एक्सप्लेन करने से पहले फर्स्ट आई विल एक्सप्लेन सम technical part and just write a technical note first before starting that Paul-Sigi model. ठीक है, I'm just giving a relationship जो डायग्राम में यूज करने जा रहे हैं उसके लिए जो बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन रिक्वायर्ड है. You know the concept of total revenue. So total revenue, as you know, it is price multiplied by quantity. When we calculate marginal revenue, what is the meaning of marginal? Marginal is change in total revenue due to one additional quantity sold. So when you apply this concept mathematically for any calculation in terms of additional change, we use differentiation. ठीक है, कहीं यूज नहीं करना है, बट दिस इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए. टोटल रेवेन्यू को अगर आप डिफ्रेंशिएट करेंगे देन यू विल गेट व्हाट, marginal. So you are basically differentiating total revenue with respect to quantity. Differentiating total revenue means you are differentiating price into quantity with respect to quantity. That will give you a marginal revenue. So if you differentiate P into Q with respect to Q, यहाँ ये प्रोडक्ट है, P into Q है, तो प्रोडक्ट रूल के अकॉर्डिंगली डिफ्रेंसिएशन होगा. तो प्रोडक्ट रूल के अकॉर्डिंगली फर्स्ट टर्म आप एज इट इज लिख देते हो P इंटू डिफ्रेंसिएशन ऑफ सेकेंड टर्म किया, डी क्यू बाई डी क्यू 1 हो गया, प्लस सेकेंड टर्म लिखा Q एज इट इज इंटू डिफ्रेंसिएशन ऑफ फर्स्ट टर्म. तो फर्स्ट टर्म का डिफ्रेंसिएशन हो जाएगा डी पी बाई डी क्यू. ठीक है, तो जब आप इसको डिफ्रेंशिएट करें तो फर्स्ट टर्म लिखा है एज इट इज इंटू डिफ्रेंसिएशन ऑफ सेकेंड, डी क्यू बाई डी क्यू, दैट इज 1. सेकेंड टर्म एज इट इज Q into differentiation of first. So marginal revenue mathematically is equal to this, MR is equal to this value. Now दूसरा कंसेप्ट जो अप्लाई करता है वो इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड का है. When we calculate elasticity, elasticity means what? Change. So it is elasticity of demand means change in demand due to change in price. So when you calculate elasticity of demand, it is change in demand, that is dq by dp, change in quantity due to change in price, into p by q. इलास्टिसिटी को कैलकुलेट करने का फॉर्मूला है, एंड we add minus sign in order to make it positive. So when we calculate elasticity, ध्यान से देखिए, when we calculate elasticity you have written dq by dp. When we find mr, it is what? So this term is inverse of this. We नीड इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ डी पी बाई डी क्यू. तो हमने इस इलास्टिसिटी का इन्वर्स ले लिया, 1 अपॉन इलास्टिसिटी कर दिया, तो ये डी पी बाई डी क्यू हो गया इंटू क्यू बाई पी, इन्वर्स कर लिया पूरा. और यहाँ से डी पी अपॉन डी क्यू की वैल्यू निकालनी. तो यहाँ से डी पी बाई डी क्यू के लिए वैल्यू निकालेंगे तो क्या होगा, 1 बाई ई इंटू पी बाई क्यू. ये मान लिया अगर सेकेंड इक्वेशन कर दिया और इसको फर्स्ट इक्वेशन कर दिया. तो dp by, in place of this dp by dq, now you can write what, this term. So you can write mr equal to p plus q. So you have written p plus q, and now in place of dp by dq, what you will write? In place of this dp by dq, you can write this complete term, which is minus 1 upon e into p by q. ये q cancel हो गया. So what is left? mr equal to what? P, sign is minus P upon E. So you can take that price common, 1 minus 1 upon E. आपको सिर्फ ये इक्वेशन याद करना, इससे कोई मतलब नहीं है इस डेरिवेशन से. You must be just knowing what is the relationship between marginal revenue, price and elasticity. So forget this, just learn this equation. mr equal to p into 1 minus 1 upon elasticity. And always remember, price is always equal to average revenue. So in place of price you can always write average revenue. So you can write this equation as MR equal to AR into 1 minus 1 upon E. So equation will be basically, you have to learn that equation, MR equal to AR into 1 minus 1 upon E. Clear? So whenever you draw diagram, your diagram must be consistent with that relationship. आपका डायग्राम रिलेशनशिप से कंसिस्टेंट होना चाहिए. अब आप ये बताओ, जस्ट यहाँ पे इस फोकस करना. यू हैव रिटन एम आर इज पी प्लस क्यू इंटू डी पी बाई डी क्यू. नाउ अंडर परफेक्ट कॉम्पिटिशन ईच फर्म एक्ट एज प्राइस टेकर. तो फर्म के लिए प्राइस कांस्टेंट है और कांस्टेंट टर्म का डिफरेंशिएशन 0 हो जाता है. तो डी पी बाई डी क्यू क्या हो जाएगा? So if this dp by dq is 0, then what is the relation between price and MR? They are equal. इसलिए तो equal बनाया था, horizontal line draw करते हैं. Under perfect competition, price is constant. So this term dp by dq will be 0. So MR is equal to price, but not in other form. And now we are not studying perfect competition. Under perfect competition हो रहा था. अब ये perfect competition नहीं है, तो यहाँ पे price और quantity का inverse relation है. So inverse relation है, that means this number will be now negative. So if this is negative, that means price minus something will be MR. So which value will be greater? Price से कुछ subtract करेंगे तो MR आएगा. That means MR will be less, price will be more. MR will be less and price will be more. Clear? So just use this equation and plot it graphically. Relationship, I am writing this equation here. Marginal revenue is equal to, either you can write AR or price. Now when you draw any demand curve, suppose I draw demand curve straight line. What is elasticity of demand at the midpoint of that demand curve? इक्वल टू 1 हो जाता है, बिकॉज लोअर सेगमेंट अपर सेगमेंट दोनों. बट इफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड इज 1, देन हाउ मच इज मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू? आंसर अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस रिलेशन. इफ इलास्टिसिटी इज 1, इन प्लेस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी राइट 1, 0 हो जाएगा. सो व्हेन इलास्टिसिटी इज 1, देन एमआर इज, बट इलास्टिसिटी इज 1 एट द मिड पॉइंट. सो करस्पॉन्डिंग टू दिस क्वांटिटी मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू मस्ट बी 0. मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू की वैल्यू यहाँ 0 होनी चाहिए. इलास्टिसिटी एक्चुअल में यहाँ पे 0 होता है और यहाँ पे इस कॉर्नर पे, और इस रेंज में लेस देन 1, इन दिस रेंज ग्रेटर देन 1. सो इफ यू कैन राइट इट, इलास्टिसिटी इज 1, देन MR विल बी 0. बट इफ इलास्टिसिटी इज ग्रेटर देन 1, देन अगेन रिलेशनशिप लिखा हुआ है, अप्लाई कर लो. ग्रेटर देन 1, सब्स्टिट्यूट एनी नंबर. Suppose it is 2. So if you write here 2, then 1 minus 1 by 2 is a positive number. Price is a positive number. So entire MR will be positive. So if elasticity is greater than 1, then marginal revenue will be positive. But elasticity is greater than 1 in this range. So in this range, elasticity is greater than 1, therefore marginal revenue will be positive. Up to this it is positive. But if elasticity is less than 1, then less than 1 कोई भी नंबर डाल लीजिए, 0.5 कर लिया, then entire marginal revenue will become negative. So negative means it will be in this negative territory. तो अब आप ये बताओ, ये किस पॉइंट से क्रॉस करेगा हमेशा? आप कोई भी डायग्राम बनाओ किसी भी मार्केट के अंदर, अगर हम डिमांड कर्व और एमआर की लाइन बना रहे हैं, दिस इज द लाइन फॉर मार्जिनल रेवेन्यू एंड दिस इज द लाइन फॉर डिमांड कर्व, देन एमआर विल ऑलवेज बाइसेक्ट इट. अगर ये 100 का पॉइंट है तो इट मस्ट बी 50. दैट मीन्स जो भी एंगल आपने यहाँ बना रखा है, इट विल ऑलवेज बाइसेक्ट. सो इफ यू आर ड्रॉइंग डायग्राम in any form of market, suppose you have drawn demand curve like this, and if you draw your marginal revenue like this, तो वो देखने से लग रहा है कि वो गलत है, मतलब आप उस कंसेप्ट को अंडरस्टैंड नहीं कर रहे हो, रिलेशनशिप को. because if you understand that relationship, then you will never draw like this. Whatever be the angle created, you have to bisect that. Clear? And at midpoint elasticity is 1, so marginal revenue will be. So just remember that relationship. So when we draw the diagram, you have to draw diagram according to that. So when you draw any demand curve, corresponding marginal revenue will be below, and slope of that MR will be greater as compared to the demand curve. ये बाइसेक्ट करता है हमेशा रिलेशनशिप. ठीक है, ये रफ में एज इट इज कॉपी करना है. इट इज़ नॉट गोइंग टू बी पार्ट ऑफ योर आंसर, मतलब आप यूज़ नहीं कर रहे हैं उसको डायरेक्टली, बट दिस अंडरस्टैंडिंग विल हेल्प टू ड्रॉ दी डायग्राम. वाई यू आर ड्रॉइंग लाइक दिस? आप उस डायग्राम को क्यों ऐसे ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं? मतलब इफ़ यू हैव ड्रॉन दिस डिमांड कर्व, देन वाई आई एम ड्रॉइंग एम आर हियर, वाई नॉट क्लोजर और वाई नॉट फार? ठीक है, यू हैव टू आंसर अकॉर्डिंग टू द relationship here. Clear? So now you can answer that price rigidity model. Clear है? Any doubt? Now what Paul Suji is arguing is that, अब यहाँ से वो टॉपिक आप क्लियर कर सकते हैं. प्राइस rigidity और किंग डिमांड कर्व. पॉल सूजी का आर्गुमेंट ये है दैट द ओलिगोपोली फर्म हैज अ किंक इन द डिमांड कर्व. किंक मीन्स देयर इज अ बेंड. नाउ यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन व्हाई दिस किंक अराइजेस, व्हाई नॉट इट इज अ सिंगल स्ट्रेट लाइन. सो देयर इज अ किंक in the demand curve, and above the kink the demand curve is flatter, below the kink demand curve is steeper. तो बताओ कि किसकी इलास्टिसिटी ज़्यादा है? अगर मैं कोई लाइन ड्रॉ कर रहा हूँ, इसमें एक स्टीप बनाया और एक फ्लैट बनाया है, इलास्टिसिटी मीन्स इलास्टिसिटी है डिमांड. तो अगर आप डिमांड कर्व को स्टीप बना रहे हैं, इसका मतलब देयर विल बी लेस चेंज इन डिमांड, लेस इलास्टिसिटी. And if demand curve is flat, means more change in demand, so it is more elastic. So upper part is elastic, lower part is inelastic. Upper part is basically elastic, so that means there will be more change here, and lower part is inelastic, that means there will be less change here. But why less change in the upper part and more change in the upper part and less change in the lower part? पॉल सूजी अज्यूम्स दैट, उसका assumption है, आप कह लो उसका conjectural variation है, and that conjectural variation is that if one firm increases the price, when you say increases, your reference should be the kink. Kink पे एक certain price है. If you increase the price, then the assumption is that others will, logical assumption क्या होगा? अगर competitor price को बढ़ा रहे हैं, तो अगर एक फर्म प्राइस को इंक्रीज कर रहा है, देन अदर्स आर नॉट एक्सपेक्टेड टू इंक्रीज. बट इफ वन फर्म विल रिड्यूस द प्राइस, देन सो इफ वन फर्म इंक्रीज द प्राइस, पॉल सूजी अज्यूम्स दैट कॉम्पिटिटर्स विल नॉट फॉलो प्राइस इंक्रीज. बट इफ दे विल नॉट फॉलो इंक्रीज, दैट मीन्स व्हाट? एक ने प्राइस बढ़ाया, दूसरे ने फॉलो नहीं किया, तो बताओ जिसने प्राइस बढ़ाया उसके डिमांड पे क्या इफेक्ट होगा? कम होगा और ज़्यादा कम होगा, रिस्पॉन्स ज़्यादा आएगा. रिस्पॉन्स ज़्यादा मीन्स इलास्टिक हो गया, तो अपर पार्ट इलास्टिक हो गया. बट इफ वन फर्म रिड्यूसेस द प्राइस, देन अदर्स फॉलो. तो अगर एक ने प्राइस कम किया है, बाकी सब ने भी प्राइस कम कर लिए, डिमांड विल चेंज, बट द चेंज इन डिमांड विल बी लेस. सो व्हेन चेंज इन डिमांड इज लेस, इट मीन्स इट विल बी inelastic. So now demand curve has two range, two segment. Upper part is elastic and the lower part is inelastic. Demand curve is now divided into two part. Upper part is elastic and the lower part is inelastic. Now in the previous diagram, what was the relation? We draw only a single line. Based upon that line, we said that marginal revenue curve will be this. So there is a relationship between demand curve and marginal revenue line, but that was only for one single straight line, and now we have two different straight lines. So there is not a single straight line continuous. सो स्लोप इन दोनों का अलग अलग हो गया, डिफरेंट हो गया. सो ड्रॉ डिफरेंट MR फॉर डिफरेंट, बट द रिलेशनशिप यू हैव टू फॉलो द सेम. सो अप टू दिस, यहाँ तक का डायग्राम बताएंगे क्या होगा. ये अगर डिमांड कर्व है तो यहाँ पे एक एंगल क्रिएटेड है, मैंने इस एंगल को डायरेक्टली क्या कर दिया, बाइसेक्ट करते हुए यहाँ तक ड्रॉ कर लिया. क्लियर. अब उसके आगे कैसे बनाएंगे. अब ये पॉइंट और ये स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट यहाँ तो है नहीं इसका. इफ यू एक्सटेंड दिस लाइन, इसका इनिशिएटिंग पॉइंट तो ऊपर होगा. इमेजिनरी एक लाइन एक्सटेंड कर लिया, वहाँ पे एक एंगल क्रिएट हुआ, उस एंगल को क्या करें, बाइसेक्ट करेंगे. सो इफ यू एक्सटेंड दिस लाइन and then whatever be the angle created, if you bisect it, that line will not pass through this point. There is a break in continuity. So if you draw that line, you will find a gap here, and after that, for this range, you are drawing this MR line. Your question will be, how much will be that gap? The answer is that gap depends upon difference in the upper section and lower segment elasticity. Greater will be the gap difference, greater will be the gap, less will be the difference. If there is no difference, then there will be no gap. अगर डिफरेंस नहीं होगा तो कोई गैप नहीं होना था. गैप अराइज हो रहा है क्योंकि डिफरेंस है इलास्टिसिटी, वो मैटर नहीं करता. आपको सिर्फ डायग्राम ड्रॉ करना, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली एक सिग्निफिकेंट गैप दिखा देना. सो नाउ you have to explain why kink arises. So kink arises due to this assumption that one firm increases the price, it expects that others will not follow, but when firm reduces the price, it expects that others will follow. So because of that change in, because of that behavioral pattern, there is a kink, and because of kink there is discontinuity in the MR. Because of that break, there is discontinuity in the MR. Clear. Now if I draw, just I am using it for rough diagram, if I draw a marginal cost which is passing through this range, apply the profit maximizing condition now. What is profit maximizing condition? MR equal to MC, but where you find that equality of MR and MC? इस diagram में उसकी equality कहाँ पे? There is no intersection. So that marginalistic rule or principle actually fails, but indirectly you can apply that. There is no intersection of MR and MC. Now if there is no intersection of MR and MC, then question is what will determine output and how we can determine output. Paul Switch says output is determined by kink. Price is also determined by kink. But why kink will determine the price and output? Kink is determining the output. But why? The answer is if firm chooses any output to the left, such as Q1. So if firm chooses any output to the left of kink, like Q1, at Q1 marginal cost is less and marginal revenue is more. That means marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. What does it mean? By producing this quantity, firm will add more to revenue and less to. So is it profitable to produce that quantity? Yes, it is profitable to produce that quantity. So firm will continue to produce in fact more quantity till it reaches, why not more than Q star? Take any quantity to the right of it. If you take any quantity to the right, then marginal revenue will be less and marginal cost will be higher. So that will not be profitable to produce that quantity. So firm will reduce the quantity. That means firm will continue to change the quantity till it reaches the quantity, but that Q star corresponds to which point? Kink से आ रहा है. So kink is determining output and kink will determine the price also. Kink से output और price का determination हो रहा है. Now suppose cost changes, firm का cost change हो गया, तो cost अगर change हो गया and suppose this cost increases but it is still passing through that range. Usually what we expect, if the cost of any firm increases, we expect that that firm will raise the price of the product. अब यहाँ पे आंसर करो, क्या ऐसा हो रहा है? मार्जिनल कॉस्ट शिफ्ट हो गया, कॉस्ट इंक्रीज हो गया, बट क्या प्राइस चेंज होगा? द सेम लॉजिक विल अप्लाई. To the left of this, MR is more, to the right of it, MC is more. So firm will continue to produce same quantity and continue to charge same price. That means despite change in cost, there is no change in price. That explains prices are rigid in oligopoly. There is change in cost, but it is not reflected in change in price, which means prices tends to be rigid in the oligopoly market. Prices are rigid in that sense. In that sense, prices tends to be sticky or rigid in the oligopoly market. So that concept has to be explained. First you are expected to explain the concept, then we will find the drawback. What is the drawback in this argument? But price rigidity is a feature of oligopoly, and that can be, so the idea why kink is arising, that is clear. ये discontinuous range क्यों बन रहा है वो clear है. कितना बड़ा range होगा that is clear. That depends upon difference in elasticity of upper and lower segment. बट पॉल स्विच ने ये कभी नहीं बोला कि वो किंक अराइज कहाँ पे होगा. ये तो हमने डायग्राम बना लिया. But if it is basically a theory of determination of price, it must tell you at what price it will be set. Now you can draw the kink here, but I could have drawn it above also. तो फिर different price आ जाता. नीचे का ड्रॉ करेंगे different price, same logic वहाँ भी अप्लाई होता. So it is not explaining at what level price will be set. It simply says whatever be the price, it will remain rigid at that price. So it is not a theory of price determination. ये price determination की theory नहीं है. Price determine कहाँ पे होगा वो नहीं बता रहा है. सिर्फ क्या बता रहा है, जहाँ पे भी determine है वहाँ पे वो क्या रहेगा, rigid रहेगा. So it is basically a description of rigidity of price. और एक्चुअल में प्राइस क्यों इंक्रीज नहीं करते फर्म, कॉस्ट बढ़ गया बट फिर भी इंक्रीज नहीं किया. लॉजिक क्या है, वो तो ग्राफ की बात होगी. अगर एक कॉस्ट बढ़ा भी है तो भी उसने प्राइस नहीं रेज किया, बिकॉज दैट फर्म विल फियर दैट इफ वन फर्म विल रेज द प्राइस अदर्स विल नॉट फॉलो, तो उसका मार्केट शेयर कम हो जाएगा. ठीक है, सो दैट इज द रीजन. सो इन दैट डिलेमा दे विल नॉट चेंज द प्राइस. क्लियर. तो ये रफ में ड्रॉ कर लिया, मैं फेयर में ड्रॉ कर रहा हूँ, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली ड्रॉ कर लेना आप डायग्राम. कंप्लीटेड. डायग्राम को इस फॉर्म में बनाइएगा, इसके मार्किंग अकॉर्डिंगली करना, सो दैट वी कैन एक्सप्लेन इट and make a slightly bigger diagram. The upper segment is elastic, lower segment is inelastic. Mark this quantity Q, this point K, this is kink point, and then for the upper segment draw the marginal revenue, then take a gap roughly and then draw the corresponding marginal revenue. And you have to continuously increase the gap. तो यहाँ भी ये gap increase करते हुए, this kink point and this quantity must be in the same line. Let me see if I mark these points A, B, all must be in the same line.
Can you please explain again the origin of
Origin it वो arbitrarily है. That origin is basically for it is starting from B corresponding to this section. If you extend this section imaginary, its starting point will be above. From there you have to draw the marginal revenue line, and that will coincide with this. And then comfortably just draw one marginal cost line. To explain, mark any quantity to the left like Q1 and any quantity to the right like Q2. To the left MR is more than MC, to the right MC is more than MR. always mark the axis. Axis is quantity, and here you can write price and cost. And to explain rigidity, you can draw one more Maya cost curve due to change in cost. Remember, it is not that always they will not change the price. Suppose there is some change in cost which is affecting all firms in the market. Government has imposed tax, so it will be imposing tax on all the firms. So what will be the behavior of all the firms? They will collectively raise the price. When they will collectively raise the price, it means that simply the point of kink will shift up. मतलब एक particular price है. If cost of only one firm is affected, then that firm will not change the price. But if cost of all firms are affected in the market, then all will change the price collectively. Right, done. Paul Suji introduced Kinked Demand curve. Paul Suji introduced Kinked Demand curve as an operational tool. Kinked Demand curve as an operational tool Paul Suji introduced Kinked Demand curve as an operational tool for determination of equilibrium in oligopolistic market. Determination of equilibrium in oligopolistic market. So according to him, demand curve of oligopolistic firm has a kink. Demand curve of oligopolistic firm has a kink reflecting following behavioral pattern. Underline that word, behavioral pattern. Reflecting following behavioral pattern. First, if a firm reduces its price, then it expects competitor to follow. It expects competitors to follow. So we are expecting price reduction to be followed, but price increase not to be followed. Second, if a firm increases its price, then it expects that competitors will not follow. Competitors will not follow price increase. So you have to mention that behavioral pattern or assumption very clearly. So you can say this is your conjectural variation here. Next paragraph. Therefore, upper section of Kinked Demand curve is elastic and lower section is inelastic. So due to kink in demand curve, corresponding marginal revenue curve has a discontinuous range due to kink in the demand curve. Corresponding marginal revenue curve has a discontinuous range corresponding to the point of kink. It means marginal revenue curve has two segments. Separated by discontinuous range. Next sentence. The difference in elasticity of upper and lower segment of demand curve determines the discontinuous range. Next paragraph. The equilibrium is defined by point of kink. Defined by point of kink. This is because to the left of kink, MR is greater than MC. To the left of kink, MR is greater than MC. If you take any quantity to the left of kink, MR is greater than MC. And to the right of kink, MR is less than MC. So output will continue to change. And it will be determined by point of kink. Next paragraph. We must note that equilibrium is not necessarily defined by intersection of MR and MC. But marginalistic principle are behind kink equilibrium. Next paragraph. The discontinuous range in marginal revenue provides a range in which cost condition may change. Discontinuous range in marginal revenue provides a range in which cost condition may change without affecting equilibrium price and quantity. Without affecting equilibrium price and quantity. So this explains rigidity of price. This explains the rigidity of price even when cost condition changes. Rigidity of price even when cost condition changes. Next paragraph. There is only one case in which increase in cost will certainly induce firms to increase their price. And it is case of general increase in cost. Such as imposition of sales tax. That affect all firms equally. Imposition of sales tax that affects all firms equally. So just remember, this kink may shift up होने पे price will change, but this kink may shift parallelly also, right side. If market expands, so the kink may shift to the right, but in that case price will remain same, only the quantity will vary. So at that point also, if required, you can add it. In addition, next paragraph, in addition, there is a range through which demand may shift without change in price. Although quantity will change. So this is possible when market demand curve shifts. Which will affect volume of output, but not level of price. ये दोनों ही डायग्राम जब स्टडी मटेरियल कोड साइंस चैप्टर को पढ़ेंगे उसके अंदर गिवन है, डायग्राम ड्रॉन है. Requirement, when you are answering, just use this single diagram. You are answering all question from this. And if the question is critically evaluate, that means to just point out the limitations as well. So just lastly, limitations को point wise लिख दीजिएगा. What is an important limitation? It is not a description of price determination. It is basically a description of price rigidity. First, the model does not explain price and output decision of firm price and output decision of firm, the model does not explain price and output decision of firm because it does not define the level at which price will be set. It does not define the level at which price will be set in order to maximize profit. That means you can draw that kink. You can draw kink here also. You could have drawn that kink above also. So you can draw kink at any point. Let's simply say that there is a kink. कहाँ पे kink होगा उसका description नहीं है. So it is not exactly pointing at what level it will be set. It simply says there is a kink. But at what level it will be determined, that has not been explained by the model. And last, second, it is not a theory of pricing. It is not a theory of pricing. It is not a theory of pricing, but it is a tool for explaining. It is a tool for explaining why prices remains rigid. It is a tool for explaining why prices remains rigid once it is determined. Why prices remains rigid once it is determined. Clear? So I think you can answer 2 or 3 questions जो भी oligopoly में based upon price rigidity model है. So I stated 2016 का question, 2001, 2005, 2000 और 1999. 2016 का क्वेश्चन है, 2001 में है, 2005 में है और 1999 में. Similar question. Okay, so we just did one topic in this oligopoly. ठीक है, वो सेपरेट टॉपिक हो रहा था इसलिए अलग कर दिया. नाउ tomorrow we'll be starting directly with the coordinate model. So coordinate model and Burton model is taken over. So one class will be basically for this, and as well as we will be solving some numericals as well in case that numerical will be repeated. So coordinate model के तो करने ही है because वो question 3 बार हो चुके हैं, but other models जिसके question नहीं भी आए हुए we will be solving 1 or 2 numerical for that also. So tomorrow it will be coordinate, Burton and Stickelberg, and then we will move to the Collissive oligopoly. So it will take around 4 class at least for oligopoly. Clear?